Hi everyone, my name is Katie and I'm doing a historical figure brief on Aristotle. Before I get started, I just want to point out that many of the definitions in this slideshow are that of Aristotle's perspective and can be seen in their entirety in the Chapter 2 glossary, starting on page 58. So a little bit about Aristotle. He's primarily known for his work as a philosopher, but according to the textbook on page 48, he made substantial contributions to almost every branch of knowledge. This is a list that I got from our textbook, but it's by no means exhaustive. Aristotle was born in 384 BC in an ancient country just north of Greece called Macedon. His father was the court physician for this area and died when Aristotle was only 7. Some of Aristotle's notable accomplishments include studying under Plato for 20 years, starting at the age of 17, tutoring the young Alexander the Great for a few years, and running a public school in Athens called the Lyceum for around 15 years. Aristotle fled Athens when Alexander the Great died because he was falsely accused of teaching against prayer by those who took power after Alexander, and a year later Aristotle died at the age of 63. Next, we will go into some of the ideas that he proposed. According to Aristotle, everything in nature follows from 4 causes, and in order to know anything, we must understand the 4 causes of that thing. So the textbook uses the example of a statue of Venus to explain causes on page 49. I'll use the example of a shed for a different perspective. The material of a shed is wood, this shed anyway. The formal cause of this shed is the shape of a shed with 4 walls, a floor, and a roof. The efficient cause of the shed is the carpenter's work he did to build it, and the final cause of the shed would be to store lawn care items. So this causal theory shows how Aristotle believed in teleology and entelechy, because every object has a purpose, whether it's currently fulfilling that purpose or not. So the existence of a creator and the purpose for all things is the basis for his hierarchy of souls in the next slide. According to Aristotle, souls are where life comes from, and each living thing's type of soul determines its purpose. There are 3 types of souls that are outlined in this graphic: a vegetative soul, a sensitive soul, and a rational soul. And as you can see, humans have all 3. Animals have sensitive and vegetative, and plants only have vegetative. So they kind of build on each other. Aristotle believed that sensation was a result of our bodies reacting to a movement in the environment with our senses, like a movement in light. So rather than the more popular opinion of the time that individual objects sent out barely discernible copies of themselves that we picked up on, he also believed that while the senses provide the clues to our world, those clues cannot be put into context without more knowledge, and this knowledge is acquired through our experiences. And we understand these experiences in different ways, listed on the slide. So the ability to use and combine sensory information, common sense, and passive reason culminates in the use of active reason, and using active reason is the human's ultimate purpose. So once again, contrary to the popular conjecture of his time, Aristotle believed that memory and recall were the result of sensory perception. He thought that remembering was spontaneous, but recall was required for mental research of experiences. So the laws of association that Aristotle came up with or implied became the basis of learning theory for more than 2,000 years. The law of contiguity, the law of frequency, the law of similarity, and the law of contrast. Lastly, Aristotle thought that memory was when sensory information left images that lasted longer than the stimulus itself, which in turn led to his ideas about imagination and dreams. So just as a memory is a lasting image of a sensory stimulus, so is imagination. However, since this sensation doesn't involve the sense organs because it happened in the past or isn't actually happening, it's untrustworthy. Dreams seem odd to us for 2 reasons. One is because the images are not organized by reason, and the other is that the images are not coordinated with ongoing sensory stimulation and previous experiences, so they've happened in the past. Dreams are also untrustworthy for these reasons, like imagination. And since dreams are about things that have already happened, they were unlikely to predict the future, other than possibly showing disease. So because humans are sensitive and rational souls that we saw in an earlier slide, this means that humans need to satisfy needs such as hunger and bodily comfort. However, since all humans' final cause is to practice rational thought through active reason, that's our greatest source of fulfillment and happiness. So this need to satisfy two different kinds of desires often leads to internal conflict. And this led to Aristotle's recommendation to satisfy this conflict with the practice of moderation, which is where his rule of golden means came from. So the book has a few examples of what the golden mean is, but to me it seems like the phrase of a happy medium, finding a happy medium. So lastly, on page 54, the textbook states that Aristotle did promote empirical observation as a method for attaining knowledge, and in doing so, he brought Greek philosophy and science to new heights. I would argue that Aristotle did have some silly claims, like the brain mostly only cooled the blood and didn't do anything else, and some claims that still hold true today. I would also argue that one of his largest contributions to psychology was the importance of empirical observation, as that's what all scientific research is based around nowadays. So here's my sources, but other than that, I don't have anything else for you.